Well, today our message title is Four Kingdoms, and this refers to the four kingdoms of consciousness, which are to me, by me, through me, and as me. So they're called four kingdoms or four aspects of consciousness, and this idea was developed by many people. They each have a little different wording, a little different twist, a little different idea about it. And it comes from various fields, maybe psychology, maybe philosophy, maybe some other kind of science. In science of mind, this is a topic or a practice that is examined in what we call practitioner studies. And it's a means of determining where your present state of consciousness is. Some time back on the minister's listserv, they were discussing this topic, and David and I decided it would be an interesting topic to bring to a Sunday message, as well as the idea that we also have a song of a similar title written by Robert Anderson with devotion, which we've always liked. So first, before we begin talking about these levels of consciousness, it's important that we all recognize that a person is not better or worse, right or wrong, depending on which level they are presently experiencing, where they fall into the spectrum of the kingdoms. There is no holier than thou syndrome associated with this process when done rightly, which I'm not going to say it always is, but there is no judgment, and we invite people to look at that for themselves too, because sometimes we're hardest on ourselves. It's simply that the understanding of which kingdom we're living in or presently experiencing through the recognition of our own words and our own thoughts and feelings allows us the opportunity to move to another way of thinking, creating, or experiencing our own life, if we choose to. It's a choice. It's also vital to understand where we fall in these areas prior to thinking that we can help others, because helping others requires us to get our ego self out of the way if we are truly going to be helpful for others. And I might add that it is much, much easier to look at another person's life and to determine where they fall in the kingdoms than it is to look at our own. And that's not our business. It's our business to remain focused on ourselves. It is a distraction to look outward. And so when we find ourselves looking outward to ensure that we are the best help for this other poor soul, if we can catch ourselves, it's a great opportunity to go, oh, what is this about me? How is this working for me, dealing with my own things? Because we have to do our own mental housekeeping so that we each individually become the loving oneness and kindness that God is. So let's take a deeper look at these four kingdoms. First of all, the to me consciousness state. It is considered a victim consciousness, and that said, probably every one of us has had it from time to time and perhaps still do. It's the idea that life happens to me, that I'm powerless, that I don't have a say in whatever's going on. It doesn't matter the circumstances, we view our life as us personally having no control over what happens. It could be bad traffic, it could be good traffic, or anything else that you're thinking of that's going on in life for you right now. But either way, when we are in the to me level of consciousness, we are not seeing any self-power. And quite often we are not experiencing any self-love. And we may, any of us, slip into this way of thinking at times, but it certainly is not a mindset that we want to live in. It looks outside of ourselves, and it can blame the world or whoever or whatever we perceive is making this situation happen to me. And so we want to be aware of when we slip into that, what pushes us or clicks us into that space, so that if we desire, we can shift it. It can often create within us sour feelings. You might notice that you become impatient or angry or frustrated. And for some of us, myself I know, I wasn't allowed to feel those things as a child, so my go-to would be to feel very, very sad. But that still is a to me mindset. So let's go to the next one, by me. By me tends to have the most other words for this level of consciousness. The by me consciousness is a manifestor consciousness. When it was originally taught, even in Science of Mind, it was called for me, which is an idea from traditional religion that God plans for you, plans your life, suggesting that there is this external power that has this effect on you and creates your results. For practitioner students, this distinction matters because the role of practitioner is about conscious creation, not wishful thinking. So the by me occurs when we are looking at how life happens by our own personal use of law, principles put into action. We begin to feel at choice in a situation, and then we begin to start taking responsibility for our own thoughts and our own choices, recognizing that in every given moment we are free to choose again. This phase emphasizes spiritual law and causation, the idea of cause and effect that takes place within each one of us in our lives, as well as the universal experience. The idea of cause and effect is central for practitioners' work because from the Bible, it is done unto you as you believe. So it is about our own belief system. The third stage or level or spectrum, if you will, that's my favorite word because it's not the one most commonly used, but it seems to me to have less judgment. I can flow freely between these levels, recognize it, let go of it, decide where I want to be. The through me stage is called the channel consciousness. It's spirit expressing through me. And so in this stage, I surrender ego. Ego no longer controls, and I allow the divine intelligence to work through me. In this state, we surrender to that flow of the universal through us. Now we're still choosing that flow, but we're allowing it to flow through us. Things seem to occur naturally when we're experiencing this, and we may feel an impulse or intuitive sensation when our mindset is in this place. Often musicians, artists, and writers will say something like, oh, I just let go, and the ideas just flowed. The ideas just flowed through me. I knew they didn't flew, but a little laughter's good too. So when we hear these kinds of ideas, we know that it is the universal energy of life moving and living through us. And so then the last one, the fourth one, the as me, is the oneness consciousness. It's the idea that I am the presence of God in expression. I am that. And all sense of separation just seems to dissolve. Spiritual experience is occurring, and we feel it. There's a sense of completion, a sense of boundless love. There's nothing lacking. We're good, and we know we're good. We're in a state of constant appreciation of love and life itself. And we recognize this feeling, this essence, this being as me.
Well, that's a beautiful analysis. I love it. Very detailed. And I love the fact that it was coming from you, to me, through you, as you, by you, to me, and through me.
And as you.
Yes. The point of that being that we experience all those things all the time in every given moment. We experience all the four basic personal perspectives of the to me, by me, as me, through me, and so on. And sometimes we may tend to suffer a little bit of multiple personality disorder as a result of it, because we're kind of experiencing multiple identities in that. Because we've talked quite a bit recently about the fact that God is all that is, and if God is all that is, God is all that I am. And so therefore, to what level am I divine? And to what level am I human? To what level am I a human having a spiritual experience, or a spiritual being having a human experience? Where are the levels, and how are we fitting in to the greater scheme of life? So I've said recently that we live in a tangled hierarchy. We live in a quantum entanglement. And there are no clear lines between our humanity and our divinity. And actually, not only are there no clear lines, there are no lines at all between our humanity and our spirituality, except where we determine those lines may be. If we attempt to determine where exactly we fall in the greater scheme of things, it can lead to dissociative identity crisis. And I was thinking about what Kathy was talking about, the 7 people on the lifeboat. And what if all those people on the lifeboat were thinking about their identities, the by me, to me, of me, through me, and you have to remember all those things as well. Oh my gosh, 7 people with multiple personality disorder on a lifeboat. That can be kind of challenging to remember their names. Well, the dissociative identity crisis is a complex mental condition where we find our identity fragmented into 2 or more distinct states of being. And it may be easier to just realize that this little individualized speck that I seem to be is inextricably part of the allness that is. I am a drop in the cosmic ocean. Joe Dispenza wrote a book. It's called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. Well, that fits well with this, doesn't it? He says the only way we can change our lives is to change our energy. To change the electromagnetic field we are constantly broadcasting. In other words, to change our state of being, we have to change how we think and how we feel. I love Joe Dispenza. I haven't read this book yet, but I'm going to. I think maybe what we are dealing with is more about recognizing our true state of being rather than what we mistakenly think and feel that we are. I think that's what Joe is talking about. We have to change our thinking about who and what we are. Do you really recognize the magnitude of who and what you are in terms of your relationship with the universal field of electromagnetic energy? That's big. Do you recognize who you are in that, or do you realize that you are that expressing? We're basically talking about our relationship with universal energy and how it works in, through, and as us. It's challenging to define or put a finger on where and how this cooperation occurs, because we're one with, but individualized cosmic energy. So we can find ourselves in various points within the hierarchy at any given time, at any given circumstance. So speaking of that electromagnetic energy field, do you actually know how electromagnetic energy fields work? You ever thought about it? Let's break it down to a little more personally observable and relatable level. Do you know how power gets from the FPL power plant to your house? Most people may think they do, but I don't think they do, actually. We generally think that the FPL creates power and it sends it through the wires, and we are buying electrons that we use that are coming through the wires into our house. Actually, electrons in a power line are wiggling and jiggling back and forth and not really going anywhere. Then we may move a few centimeters here and there, but they don't really go anywhere. James Clerk Maxwell and John Henry Poynting in the 1800s did a lot of research on this idea of electrical energy and how it flows and how it moves. And they came up with the conclusion that it's made up of oscillating electric and magnetic fields. Energy is stored and transmitted in electric and magnetic fields through waves around the wires. Electrons move through wires as electricity, but energy is passing through the field around the wires. The field, not the electrons, carry the energy. So the wires do not carry or send power themselves. Electrons barely move at all. Traveling electromagnetic waves around power lines are really what's delivering power. There is no charge until we use it, until we unite the electrons and the field together. I experienced this personally in my life doing electrical work, and a few times I would forget to turn off the breaker or something, and I would sometimes grab a hold of the hot wire. And it was enough that would give you a surprise. It wasn't really much enough to necessarily hurt, but it definitely scared me. But it was a pretty good jolt. But that was electrons moving from the wire into me. Had I reached around and grabbed the ground wire or become a ground by stepping in water or the ground or something, I would have received the full charge, because I would have united the field and the electrons, which I did once, and I know I will never ever do that again. It's enough to make you decide to go into plumbing instead of electricity. But so there's no charge until we use it and we unite the electrons and the field together. But there is a field. I think that's the important part to remember. There is a field around the wire that we don't know about. We think all the energy is in the wire. It's just electrons. The point, or the correlation to all this, is that we see ourselves as individualized units or particles, and we are actually part of a cosmic field. We're part of waves of energy. We see ourselves as separate pieces, individualized particles, when in reality we're part of the unified field that is all around us, and it is all that we are. And it's what animates us, brings us to life, and gives us life. I've been doing a lot of reading and research about energy fields. I have shared over the weeks a lot of things I've read from Rupert Sheldrake, and he talks about morphogenetic fields and resonance fields and so on, and how there are fields of energy around us. And I've been reading books about healing modalities using sound and vibration energy fields around and within the body for healing. And it's realizing that in these fields that are around us, we find our memories, our thoughts, our ideas, and so on. They don't come from the brain necessarily. They come from fields of energy that are around us. It helps us heal. It helps us to be creative. It helps us to think. It helps to tie us together with the one universal field of all that is. So we come up to the idea that we don't just tap into cosmic source energy. We are outlets of cosmic energy into the world. Ernest Holmes says it can only work for us by working through us. So is universal energy actually flowing to us, through us, as us, by us? Yes. All the above, all the time. It is most certainly flowing within us, and it is most certainly flowing around us. So how are we relating in consciousness to that universal energy? It's so much more than, not so much about, excuse me, I read the sentence wrong. It's not so much how it influences or affects us, but how we are being it. How are we using it and being it?
I like that. So, as David was talking, I was thinking about an experience that I had this week, and I haven't had time enough to think about it enough, but I'm going to think about which stage I was in. But I am going to share two things that I think are probably valuable for us within this. So I had a time where there were like 4 major things going on that seemed to elevate my emotional response to life. And I just let it settle, let it be what it was, and took one little moment at a time, came home and expressed to David these things that were like weighing heavy. But it was exactly what you were talking about. It was that field. I could feel that energy field. And my thoughts about all these things that were going on were not allowing me to feel peace, were not allowing me to feel oneness, but I was the one having the thoughts. And my huge aha was, you're lucky you got with me a little later in life, because I realized in this moment you were talking about that feel, that I had felt like that. We all feel like that sometimes. We just don't have the words to express that energy. Our energy feels like it's really big and it's really conflictual. And what I realized today in listening to you talk about the electricity and the feel is that I was feeling that, but today I have the mental tools to say, just peace, be still, this too shall pass. Before, my go-to was to pick a fight with someone because I didn't want to deal with 1, 2, 3, and 4, but I could deal with picking that fight. So maybe that will be helpful for some of us also, not just me. And I'm so glad I don't do that anymore.
Yeah, otherwise I'd be out in the field.
So the 4 levels of consciousness describe the evolution of our human awareness regarding our relationship with the divine and our personal power to create our own reality. We may move within these states of consciousness several times throughout a day. Sometimes we may even experience them several times in a short period of time, depending upon the circumstances and our response to it, our realization of what our thoughts are upon and what we're doing with that, how that field is energizing itself. So we could feel like a victim of circumstances, believing power lies in the external and life is happening to me, or we could then recognize that our thought creates our reality and make the effort to shift to life happening by me, therefore owning my own power within. Or we could throw up our arms, throw open our channel of cooperation with the divine rather than just my own personal power and experience life through me, that flow. Or I can move into understanding that there is no separation between me and the divine. There never was. And then I can realize life happens as me, since there is only one life. The Conscious Leadership Group estimates that 97% of people spend 90% of their time in the to me or by me states. Now that might seem a bit high for those of us who practice this teaching and hang out with New Thought thinkers, because we're already aware of these ideas and practicing them. But knowing these statistics can help guide us towards shifting our own thoughts, which results in a shift in our life. Remember, as you practice, there is no right or wrong, only choices to be made. You may be able to find new ways for using these 4 kingdoms of consciousness to elevate yourself when you find you're experiencing a victim state of living. So life is more thoroughly enjoyed by you, through you, and as you. And so it is.
Well, I did something different today, and I think it's going to show the multiple personality disorder that goes on with to me, by me, through me, of me. Push button.